But so for as far as your long-term vision for the NRA and how to reform it, beyond making sure people follow their fiduciary responsibilities, I guess as officers and board members, would you change anything about the structure of the NRA, the
Well,
elections?
I think there's a lot of things. I hear often that a 76 member board is unwieldy, and I know that's true. It's about like running a legislative chamber. That's where I really learned about how committee work works, and how to get things through the process. And then I used what I learned on the NRA board the first time when I went to the Kansas Senate. I think that my idea is my thought is that it needs to be a business political management board, maybe 15 at the most, smaller than that, as long as it's an odd number. And then the other work that the NRA does, the mountains of work we do, that's like 95% of the organization's mission, is things that we never see in television: kids programs, women's programs, law enforcement support, the competitions, and all that. And so we have a discipline board that would be the committees like high power and F class and small bore and things like that. And they would all get together, not as often as the business board, and work on the rule books, work on sanctioning the national and state matches, and then, go on from there. And they provide a valuable service because the shooting sports needs to be regulated fairly and in a timely way so that the sport can progress.
Okay. So you would make significant structural changes to how the NRA's governance works.
I think it would be in the NRA's best interest, yes.
Okay. What about some of these officer positions? Some of these things get rolled up several positions into one person. That you've seen a lot of that at the NRA. Wayne LaPierre was not just the executive vice president; he was also the CEO. He served as well as a sort of spokesperson role too. John Frazier right now is the general counsel, but he's also the secretary of the board. Is that a concern as well, that some of these positions have been too consolidated?
Yes, absolutely. When you look at if they end up as an officer in two different positions with countervailing duties, what do they do? Like, he's general counsel, but he's also the secretary, for example, with Mr. Frazier. There were a number of times where those two could get in the way of the other. And I think it's important that at one person, one office, everybody knows their job, everybody knows their lane, and they keep everyone else in the lane they're supposed to stay in.
Mm-hmm. And so, that's sort of that's kind of a long-term vision for these things. Would you change anything about the approach of the NRA, I guess, is the other? This is one that a lot of people wonder about. Like, is all this fallout going to change how the NRA looks at the Second Amendment or its advocacy for it, how it approaches politics? Would you change any of that?
Well, I think one thing we certainly need to do is have a spokesperson that can actually get on the television. I mean, the only thing Wayne LaPierre's done in the last 5 years is Newsmax, and the reality is nobody watches that. And so I think that it is wrong for the NRA to hunker down after a tragedy and kind of go silent for a while, because that really leaves the other side open to make accusations that aren't answered. And an accusation that's not answered is admitted. I mean, that's what the whole Fifth Amendment in a criminal case is about. You got to remind the jury that they can't be compelled to testify against themselves, and you can't draw an inference from that. That's not true in the public arena.
Mm-hmm.
You don't answer it. They think you're guilty.
Right. Now, do you think the politics of the NRA needed, like, how would you view that? Like, do you think there's been lots of critiques from all sides of the NRA over the years, whether it's too willing to compromise? You hear that from a lot of other gun rights groups, or whether it's too extreme in the pro-gun direction. You hear that a lot from, major media outlets or gun control groups, obviously. Do you think that the political path, is that something you would?
I think that right now I'm focused on trying to save it. I come from the perspective of that I'm a 4-H rifle and pistol instructor. I've been teaching children for decades. I'm a hunter safety instructor. I've taught over 5,000 kids hunter education. I'm a master high power rifle instructor from the civilian marksmanship program. And if you saw what I had in my safes in the basement and the other secure rooms, you'd see what I really enjoy. And while I have played a role in politics, I think that the membership should play a role in divining that answer and not leave it up to the big czar, to figure it out for all of us. I think it's got to be a bottom up process. And I know that there are vast differences between the membership's opinions regarding individual topics, whether it's bump stocks or do you need one of those black guns or whatever. And, I right now, I just want to save the organization, and then we can work out all those political questions later. I think this next election cycle is going to be brutal for our friends.